The dark night of the soul is a spiritual experience we go through as part of the spiritual awakening. The name is a bit misleading because it's not one night. I wish it was, but it's not. It comes and goes over a period of time, which varies from person to person, but it can be weeks, months, or years. The dark night of the soul is what we go through when we experience a disruption to our identity and we realise we're not the person we always thought we were. So it's like an ego death. When we awaken, we realise that we are a spiritual being having a human experience, not a human being having a spiritual experience. Our true nature is that of spirit, but the person we've come to identify with, who we base our whole life on, is part of our ego, and our ego is not who we truly are. As a spiritual being, we come to earth in a human form, we take on an ego, and we play a role. Now that role includes everything we think we are in this life, which might include being a son or a daughter, brother or sister, a parent. We might be a male, a female, a doctor, a teacher. These are all parts of the role we play in our earthly life, but that isn't who we truly are. Now, when we come to realise this, it can cause us to feel a bit lost and a bit disconnected. We might start to question, well, what's the point then? Have I just come to earth to play the role of a person, doing a job, being somebody's daughter, obtaining material things that only make me happy for a short time anyway? What's the point? So the spiritual awakening causes us to question all of this, all of our achievements in life, because they don't feel important anymore. And when we question all the stuff that we've accumulated and we realise it doesn't bring us lasting happiness, that can cause the dark night of the soul. Life suddenly feels a bit pointless. We work hard, we strive to earn money, to pay our rent or our mortgage, to keep a roof over our heads, and it just feels pointless. The things that used to bring pleasure don't really bring it anymore. And this could be a really scary part of the awakening because we're not enjoying the things we used to enjoy and we feel like we're losing ourselves. Another part of the dark night of the soul is losing the things that used to bring us pleasure because they actually start to fall away from us. So you might lose a job, you might lose a relationship, you might lose friendships, and you can face grief and loss and extreme change. As things shift and change hugely on the inside within your own energy, that's then reflected in your external world as well. So loss is a very, very common feature of the dark night of the soul. Something else I came to realise during my dark night experience was that I wasn't honouring my body and my emotional journey. I was on antidepressants, which I've been on for 5 years. And I realised that I was just numbing my way through life with medication because I was deeply unhappy. But I didn't want to feel that unhappiness and that emptiness, so I took tablets to numb the pain. I also realised that the pain was trying to tell me something, that there was a better way to manage that pain through managing my energy, through Reiki, through looking after myself, and not the medication. So I felt really called to come off the antidepressants, which looking back was from my higher self. And that was actually a really painful experience because I'd been on them for so long, I'd actually forgotten how I felt before I started taking them. It also took a long time to wean myself off, so I was depressed for a very long time before they were out of my system. And I believe a lot of people drink alcohol for the same reason. They're unhappy, so they might use alcohol or drugs or something else to kind of numb their way through life. So that was a very useful realisation and a very healthy decision to come off the tablets, but it was an emotionally turbulent time for me as I started to adjust to my feelings again and recognising the signs my body was sending me and not just covering those signs up with numbing medication. So in summary, the dark night of the soul is when we realise our true nature, but we grieve the loss of who we thought we were. It's when things in life that used to give us pleasure don't hit the mark anymore. It's also a time where we face uncertainty as we desperately search for our purpose, without which life feels really pointless. It's a time of disruption and loss as things drop away from us that don't serve our highest good anymore. So it doesn't sound that great. However, we all go through this period, so you are not alone and you will come out the other end feeling so much happier and lighter. This period of disruption and loss is necessary for the awakening. It's actually really transformative. You can only open new doors when old ones close. And you can have new experiences when you stop focusing on the old experiences that you've outgrown and that don't serve you anymore. You'll find your purpose. You'll find people who resonate with your new energy. So that means new friendships, new relationships, and possibly new collaborations in your work. You may have a complete change of career as well. So when you come out the other end of a dark night of the soul, you'll have stronger boundaries, you'll know where you want to go and what you want to do. You won't want to waste time doing things you don't love, and you'll choose your experiences more wisely. You'll also find it easier to say no. Life feels more precious, more exciting. So remember all of these things when it gets tough. When you're in the middle of that experience, it can feel really hopeless. So keep your eye on how it's going to feel when you come out of the other end. I cried so much during mine, and I just allowed myself to sob when that feeling came up, even if I wasn't sure why I was getting upset. It's all part of that healing journey to release the old. And also, when it feels really dark, recognise that it would be a lot worse if you weren't going through this, because that would mean you'd still be asleep to your spiritual nature. You will come out the other end a lot lighter and happier. So if you're wondering whether you're going through a dark night of the soul, you'll probably have been nodding away at the things I've just been talking about. But here are some signs that you might be experiencing it. So number 1, you find yourself crying a lot more, and sometimes you're not sure why you're crying. When this happens, allow the emotion up and trust that you're healing something that you might not be consciously aware of. Sometimes our old traumas run really deep, and it may not be immediately obvious why you're feeling upset, but just allow it to be. Number 2, you're facing loss in one or more areas of your life. Things are dropping away, and this can cause major disruption, and it can all often happen at once. So that includes sometimes losing a job or a career, loved ones moving on or passing away, divorce, losing friends, losing a home, financial difficulties. Not necessarily all of that, but often you're experiencing major loss. Now that can be the catalyst for the awakening, because it kickstarts as the grief calls you to question the meaning of life. So if that happens, it starts the dark night of the soul and your spiritual journey begins. Number 3, you're looking for purpose in everything. You question things before you do them, and you stop following the crowd. Number 4, material things don't give you pleasure anymore. You realise you get a bit of pleasure when you buy something new, and then it's gone and it's very short-lived. And you lose interest in buying more and more stuff. And number 5, you'll find yourself purging, which means releasing, in all areas of life. So you might start throwing stuff out of your house or giving things away. You might crave having less stuff around you and more space around you. Number 6, you experience more anxiety or depression that isn't in isolation. So if you experience anxiety and you weren't awakening spiritually, then there might be another reason for it. But as you're here taking this course, you will be on your spiritual path. And the dark night of the soul can cause a temporary increase in our anxiety or depression. But now that you understand it a bit more, it should make it easier to handle and easier to manage. Remember, you're not alone. You are actually never alone. You have a whole team of spirit guides around you all the time, cheering you on.